What is happening, you guys, and welcome to another episode of the Fins Tailgate. I am your humble host, El Capitan, and tonight is the special night. We are doing the Miami Dolphins debate show. Yay! Got a bunch of the boys in the back. Everybody's here and ready and set to go. Make sure you guys are hitting the like button on your way in, subscribing if you're new. If you're watching on Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter, stroll on over here to YouTube and get down with the conversation. Thanks for everybody hopping in here early. Make sure, guys, to check out Backroom Collections and Fanatics links in the description, as well the link for all the new merch and everything we got in the back. Check out the brand new swimsuits. That's right, coming at you live. Can't be more Miami than that. All the good stuff. Support the channel, guys. We really appreciate it. I'm going to start rolling in the guys right now, bit by bit. First off, we'll bring in Kadeem, my brother from another mother across the pond and everything from another country. Go time Dolphins. Kadeem, how you doing, my guy?
I'm not doing bad. I'm not doing bad, thanks. Always good to be back on the show. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. I'm just super stoked to get to this. Next guy we got coming up on the panel, LarryK. What is happening, brother?
What up, my brother, man? It's a pleasure to be on here with you. An admirer. Your personality shines through, my bro, and I hope I can add a little bit to that tonight, man.
Oh, you know, I brought the jacket on. I put my purple jacket on and my dancing shoes.
I love it.
You know, we get going. We get going. Next up coming in here, we got Doug with the touchdown. DougSmith, what's happening, brother? How you been, man? Good to see you again.
Man, great to see you too, man. Happy to be amongst greatness, man. Bunch of my Fin family. I'm seeing some of you guys for the first time, so it's gonna be a great time tonight.
Awesome, awesome. Next coming up on here is JasonSarney from the Dolphins Wire. What is up, Jason? Thank you so much for coming, brother. Really appreciate it. Humbling us with your presence. Thank you so much.
Thank you, El Capitan, for having me, fellas. It's a pleasure. A lot of orange and aqua and purple. I love it.
Yeah, that's right. I stole this from the Baltimore Ravens last year. Took their colors right off that win. Beat them so bad, they became my colors now. So I'm going to keep them. They look good. Next coming up here, killing it on Locked On Canes. Oh, my boy. What's going on, Alex? How you been, brother?
Hey, I'm great. I'm so happy to be here with such a handsome panel. I mean, fantastic. Many of you I know pretty well. Some of you I'm going to get to know very well. We're all excited for another Dolphins season.
That's great, brother. So next we got coming up for the guys from On the FinSide. First up, Brian. What's happening? Brian Cat, NFL. What's happening, Brian? Thank you for coming back around, bro.
Hey, what's up, guys? Yeah, looking forward to the show here tonight. Even though I'm not wearing Dolphins colors, it is Dolphins gear. I promise.
Listen, that blue
doesn't quite look like it.
That blue used to be our Dolphins blue. I actually got the old school hat laying over there. Remember, we used to carry that navy blue in our color scheme there for a few years. So you're in there. You're in there.
Nice.
And next up, coming here, your partner, Paul. What's going on, Paul?
What's up, Jason? Just so you know, I told him I wouldn't come on the show unless he wore the purple suit. So
that's it. That's right. Yep, he needs it. He wants that and the tie too. The tie was preference. Still waiting.
I'm just glad I didn't wear mine.
Yeah. Oh, you got a purple suit as well? Oh man, I need to get everybody a purple suit. Imagine if we all rock on this thing with purple suits on. That'd be great.
You can all be glad I didn't wear one of those swimsuits that we saw on that graphic. I don't know how good I would look in one of those.
Oh man, listen, I'll tell you what. You wear that swimsuit, bro. I will buy it for you to wear. Okay, how about that, Alex?
I'm just rocking the bottoms. I figured the top would be inappropriate.
I don't know. I think you'd look good in that top, Paul. I think you would really bring out your eyes. So I think it's
and despite what you might think, Paul is not wearing a Kalen Blage jersey, number 27.
No, is it? Oh, it's Pickett. Oh, it's your jersey. That's you. I mean, you made the team. I remember. I seen you on the roster.
He's still averaging more yards per
As
carry.
a running back, I probably could have got more yards.
Yeah, you could have fell down forward for more yards. That's true. So, listen, guys, what brings us here, we know the 53-man roster has been brought down. Couple of surprises. Not really, because we always kind of keep a couple of young guys. Let's go around the room. Who are you guys most surprised that made the team, and who are you most surprised that didn't make the team? Start with you, Kadeem.
I don't think anyone really surprised me in terms of making the team. I think everyone over the course of training camp and the preseason games kind of, I guess, done their jobs. It's one of those things where I wasn't sat there going, oh my days, this person's been awful all preseason. How have they made the team? There's a few guys who I thought would have made the team. You know, I don't think anyone expected 5 running backs, 5 tight ends, 5 wide receivers, but at the same time, the guys that did make it, you kind of every single person was justified. So not to be the boring guy from the UK, but I can't think of anyone off the top of my head who I was like, oh my days, how did they make it? Even someone like Skylar Thompson. I think after the second preseason game, we all knew Skylar Thompson was making a team. So that would no longer surprise. So, yep, sorry to get off on a boring start, but is what it is.
It's all right, man. We're going to roll through it. Listen, I don't think it was boring. I think it was very astute and correct. Larry, go ahead.
Bro, I think Iggy, man. I know, and in hindsight, it makes sense from a contract perspective. Why not keep an extra body? You're hurting that corner anyway. But the dude just hasn't impressed me at all. I thought he was a goner, just to be definitive in where we were heading with these young guys. I understand it from a purely academic standpoint, but I was a little surprised, especially with guys like Bowden, getting cut, and others that I thought kind of might have deserved a roster spot. He got some bodies at defensive back. I didn't think Iggy was going to make it. I really thought his poor performance in the preseason a little bit kind of took me there even further. Look, it makes sense, but I'm still a little surprised, to be honest with you.
Larry, I'll say this to that point, really. I look at Iggy on the team, and then I think of like Clayton Fedulum on the team. And really, you're like, Iggy should be doing what Clayton Fedulum does to earn that roster spot.
Yes.
And so both of them need to go in this scenario.
Totally agree. Yeah.
Need to go in this scenario.
Yeah.
Jason.
I'll start. I'll defend Fedulum. He's a 2-year captain with a lot of special teams value. I know it's not sexy value, but with Danny Crossman, the special teams coach, staying, I think that it's just kind of ready-made continuity in that phase. Coordinator, captain, does enough. I don't want to see him at safety. Trust me, no one wants to see him at safety, and that's just calling it like it is. Iggy, yes, Larry, to your point, I think it just makes mathematic sense to just try it again. But I do think that at sacrifice of a Lynn Bowden Jr., at sacrifice of even a Benito Jones, who I was really hoping made this team, and lo and behold, claimed by the Lions. But other than that, Kadeem, I'm with you. Nothing that I'm rolling around upset about. I think it's a very solid 53, and it was a really tough one to do.
Alex, what about you?
I don't have any big surprises. Maybe a disappointment or two. Like I really like Lynn Bowden, and he's just a valuable guy on special teams, and I think he can play receiver in this league. A little disappointed, not surprised by Sony Michel. I think just being a South Florida guy and following high school football down here, I was rooting for him. I was happy he was finally a Dolphin for like the brief second that he was here. And then really outside of that, I'm surprised that some people were surprised that they kept Skylar Thompson on the 53. I mean, just the fact that they made the effort to draft him in the first place in the 7th round, knowing they already had Tua and Teddy, goes to tell you, they're not just going to waste a draft pick on a guy that has no chance of making the team. And then I think once he actually got here, he exceeded all the expectations. I mean, you guys mentioned how good he was, and he was the preseason MVP. This guy was fantastic, and you have to stash him. Like if you lose him, he may end up being really good somewhere else. So I was really happy and relieved that he made the team, because so many people were talking about him maybe getting cut and then perhaps getting poached, that I kind of talked myself into being a possibility. But then you saw the way that Mike McDaniel and Chris Greer, they talked about him as if he was like a son of theirs or something. They love that guy.
All giggly and stuff like that. They're like, "Oof, this kid! I mean, wow, you can't let this kid go." Yeah, they got real excited. Doug, what's up, brother?
What's up, man? Oh man, you guys hit a few of them, Fedulum, but I mean, Jason made a good point. I mean, he is really great on special teams. Not a flashy position, but hey, I guess we need that, right? So Sony Michel was a big shocker for me. And you see, literally just a few hours ago, he's already on a plane right now to the LA Chargers, and he's going to do wonders there, especially with Austin Eckler and his history with injuries. He's going to take and come in there. He's not a super flashy player, but I like Sony Michel, and this is just my humble opinion. When it's 4th and 1, at all the running backs that we had, I felt like Sony Michel would get it there. Raheem Mostert would be the second one. I would say that could definitely push it in. But yeah, that one. And then I'm super pumped about Mr. Thompson, man. He made the team. I was on edge. Look, I'm still back into it because that's our guy. He earned to be there, right? And We've only seen 3 games, but man, just to know that we have in the arsenal, baby. I'm excited.
Yeah, it's good to have a guy like that sitting on ice. And the value you can gain from drafting him in the 7th round is something to be said. And Kadeem and I were talking this backstage a little bit, that, you know what, he plays as your backup a few years, comes year to pay Tua, you draft another young guy behind him, and Skylar Thompson is all of a sudden you're getting a 3rd-round pick or a 2nd-round pick for the guy. The value grown in that situation is great. And, all things, hitting the shit hitting the fan, for lack of a better term, and he comes out there, it'll be fun to see him.
Yeah, absolutely. If I got one more point real quickly is that we, as much as I can't stand the Patriots, they did this year after year. They would get these quarterbacks between rounds 3 and 7, and they would light it up in preseason, and then they would have draft collateral later down the road, and they would flip that draft, kind of allow people hook up a car or they fix up a home and they sell it for much more value. We saw that over and over. We saw it with Ryan Mallett.
Perfect way to put it. Flipping quarterbacks, bro, like flipping houses. I love it. Brian, what's up, brother?
Yeah, I would say that there were no shockers. The 2 that I would have to point to that surprised me a little bit were Solomon Kindley and Lynn Bowden. But when I think about it more and more, you take a look at him and, Solomon Kindley never fit this offense. It calls for quicker offensive linemen on the inside. So I guess that's not a huge shock, but he did play well in those preseason games. I think he lands somewhere. And Lynn Bowden, nobody can convince me he's not one of the 53 best players on the roster, just from a talent perspective. But I also get it. He's not the best practice player. He wasn't moving up the depth chart. Is he the best kick and punt returner on the team? Maybe, but maybe not. So if he's not the kick returner, punt returner, he may be only your 6th or 7th option in the offense when you take a look at all the skill positions combined. Skylar Thompson's the one thing that had to happen. I mean, if it would have been a travesty if after what we saw and after him being drafted in the 7th round, he was cut. Even if you get a solid backup quarterback here on a rookie contract for the next 3 years, you're saving $6 or $7 million that you're saving on Teddy Bridgewater. So I think that's big. And any other gripe I would have, I really wouldn't have any, but I look at the players the Dolphins have already gotten back on the practice squad today.
Yeah.
Cameron Good, Braylon Sanders, Larnell Coleman, Veron McKinley,
Ben Still. A lot of the dudes that we're really hoping to get back. I feel very fortunate in that way.
Yeah, I made a top 10 list, and 8 of my top 10 guys that I wanted back on the practice squad today got back on there. The other 2 that missed were Bowden and Kinley, but I understand why they weren't brought back, at least at this point, because they don't fit the offense all that well.
So Kinley, to me, like I can't help but feel that we're going to see him in Green Bay, and he's just going to look really good. And we're going to hear about him getting a contract because we know it's not his versatility in moving and blocking out in space, but every time that man put his hands on somebody, they did wherever he wanted. So best of luck to him. Hopefully maybe we can get him back on the practice squad. Paul, how about you, my brother?
Well, you know who's a better receiver than Ethan Carter, and I like more on special teams than Clayton Fedulum? Lynn Bowden. So, replace either of them with him. I mean, it's Sarney, I know you said you didn't want to see Fedulum at safety. I don't want to see him at Hard Rock.
Jeez. I'll tell you, see then we can get out of there, Paul. See then we can get out.
See, listen, I like Ethan Carter. I know everybody gives him, but I like a guy with that type of versatility that can play, tight end, pass catching, put his hand in the dirt, great in the blocking. And now with this system being the way it is, with having Alec Ingold at a healthy dose, he goes down for a few games. You need someone that's going to sit in at the starting type of role. Not that Durham Smythe can't do it. But Paul, you were saying?
No, I mean it's his resources backup fullback. I'd rather see Christian Wilkins play fullback. I'd rather see a lot of people play fullback. I'd rather see Robert Hunt play fullback. I mean, it's those two kind of surprised me a little bit just based on some of the players we cut. We knew there were going to be some tough cuts this year. We knew it. I mean, Skylar Thompson, I think when we did our first roster projection in end of May, beginning of June, I had them keeping him as a third quarterback. It's what I saw from him when I watched his tape was like, this guy could be fun. I don't think he did enough to unseat Tua like some people do. but I think he did enough that I look at him as our backup quarterback at the very least next year, unless they're able to make a trade involving Teddy, which is the only way to make it kind of financially make sense.
Paul, didn't you hear? Skynet is live, bro. Didn't you hear? Skynet is live, bro. It is live. The Terminator Skynet is coming out, and this team will run with the Tuinator and Skynet as their.
I'll take it. I will take it.
So, all right, guys. For me, Clayton Fedgelam's remaining on this team only says one thing. He's got the video and the audio from the meeting at the yacht. He's holding that over Stephen Ross. That's what it is. It's a fact. Take it to the bank. That's the only way this guy keeps it on this team. Because when I do measure him up as the 53rd man to Bowden, it's not even comparable. Bowden, to me, I would rather see Bowden in at safety.
Yeah. You're not wrong.
So we have just a few more spots. We're like halfway through on the practice squad, guys. A name that's been interesting that I've seen out there is Trey Sermon getting released out there from San Francisco 49ers. He got cut. I think he was a 4th-round pick or something like that last year. It's only the 2nd year in the NFL. 49ers. What do you guys think of that? Free for all it. Jump in, boys.
It's just that running back is so stacked with us. I mean, do we take him though? He knows McDaniel. Does he fit the system? Perhaps. I guess to
think that they scouted him to fit that system from the 49ers, so there's got to be some fit in there.
Right.
The fact that the 49ers let him go, I get that too. But,
yeah.
To me, like, they went down with so many running backs in the Niners through this system, and that kind of injury bug is common in this scheme because it demands a lot of this runs. So I don't know, man. What do you guys think?
I'd rather call up Zaquandre.
I've never been a huge. And it's not just revisionist history here, because he's got some talent because he was a former 3rd-round pick. But I was always confused by that pick from the Niners at the time because he doesn't appear to be that guy, like that Mike Shanahan type of runner that plants his foot in the ground and charges upfield. He seems more like a one-speed type of runner. I didn't see a lot of explosiveness from him at Ohio State, even though he put up a lot of great yards over the last year. I'm not a big fan, and he's also not a great receiver. He's not a great blocker, and if the 49ers are keeping 5 players, running backs on their roster, one of which is an undrafted free agent, and Sermon isn't one of them, that's a pretty telling sign. So, if you get him on the Dolphins practice squad, I'm fine with that, but I'd probably pass overall.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Alex? What do you think of Trey Sermon?
Yeah, I think Brian hit it on the head. I think there's probably a reason why he got waived, and it's not a big position in need right now for the Dolphins. I think the one thing that's even making us ponder this is just the McDaniel connection. But I don't really know if that was a player that McDaniel really rated that highly in the first place. So I don't really see it. I don't think that I don't think running back, and he's already got his guy Mostert here, and I know he didn't coach Edmonds, but he coached against him enough that he saw him up close and personal in that division. So I think he's probably already got that itch scratched.
So I think it's pretty safe to say nobody needs to see him on the football team. Am I right, boys? So Jason, Doug, you guys?
Yeah, you guys hit the nails on the head.
Listen, after talking to you guys, that's it. I don't ever want to see him in a Dolphins uniform. I agree with you guys.
So easily swayed.
Listen, I blow as the wind blows. You know what I'm saying? Get around. So, cornerback depth. We don't have Byron. We don't have blanking out of his name. We don't have Byron Jones for the first 4 weeks. We're going to see Buffalo week 3. We're going to see Cincinnati week 4. We're going to lean on hopefuls, Keon Crossan, who I think we think is pretty good, and like that in him. Kader Kahu, who's been undrafted guy, and I like that. Noah Igbenogany, Nick Needham can play a little boundary. I like Eric Rowe, but I can't help but feel like they missed some opportunities around here when we knew we were bringing Mackenzie Alexander around here, and there's other veterans. Okay, he got injured. No one can predict that. But And Chris Greer kind of touched on this about potentially adding somebody. Who would you guys like to see that's available making on this football team?
Quick question. Isn't Elijah Campbell, didn't he make the squad? Isn't he a cornerback too?
He did.
Yeah.
Cornerback / safety.
Safety,
Oh.
yeah. I think he plays more nickel. I don't know how much boundary work you really want putting him out there in. Kind of like Eric Rowe in that way. You know what I'm saying?
But you could kick Needham to the boundary for a few weeks and put either Kohu or Campbell in that nickel.
That's
I was
what I'm
wondering
hoping
that.
for. I'm hoping for that, Paul, because that's his natural Needham's position as a boundary. They asked him to adjust the corner, and he did so admirably to the point where we don't want him playing anywhere outside of nickel corner. So he could do it. Will it create such a huge gap in that slot? Let's see. Next man up. Crossing. Kodu. Elijah Campbell. Maybe they bring combo of Rowe, Jones, and or Holland down. Who knows? But we'll see. But Jones is a miss. Byron Jones out is a miss.
Yeah, it's a trade-off too, right? It's like what's in that matchup too? Is the boundary more important than the slot? Do you have a guy who's better equipped to step in at the boundary or step in at the slot when you make that decision? I kind of was curious to see if Needham would slide out these first 4 games for that reason and who they would have up in the slot. But it's going to be interesting to see one way or the other, and it's obviously an area of interest, for us because of that injury.
What do you think?
I think, Larry, you hit on a really important point there is if you take Nick Needham, who was, like you said, Jason, originally a boundary cornerback, but then he played so well in the slot, do you move him back out to the boundary, put somebody else in the slot, and possibly weaken 2 positions? I would prefer to see what you have in Keon Cross out there at cornerback, if he's healthy enough to go, because he looked like he fit at least the height, weight, speed profile that's needed for this defense to play at that cornerback spot, because you've got to cover a lot of ground, and you need somebody who's 5'11", 195, and runs a 4.3 like Keon Cross. And I'm really excited about him, even though he hasn't had a lot of experience playing just cornerback over the last couple of years.
It's true. He's been a lot of special teams guy and stuff like that. Kadeem, what do you think?
We discussed this backstage. It's a really tricky one because anyone you bring in, people mention Joe Hayden, Chris Harris Jr., all these kind of guys.
Hayden, who I was wanting. When we were getting somebody, I wish we would have picked Hayden up. I don't think we'd be thinking about this at all if we were in that situation. Go ahead.
It's difficult because those guys are going to want to play starting for, or at least, cornerback 3 for the whole season. Once Byron Jones comes back, that's Byron Jones' spot. So it's difficult to get a vet in and say, listen, we're going to play you for a month, maybe 5 games, then relegate you to the bench, pay them enough money to make them happy, and it's always complicated. And I think especially with the way this Dolphins corner or the Dolphins defense is set up in general, they've got enough help, I guess, around the whole cornerback. So you've got a really good defensive.
Their secondary really helps each other out, man.
Yeah,
right.
Javon, if you've got to play Noah for 1 game, you just say to Javon Holland, just make sure Noah doesn't get picked on. And let's be honest, if Javon Holland even looks like he's going to go over to that side, teams aren't throwing there because you're either going to knock someone out because Javon Holland hits really, really hard, or it's an interception. So it's one of those things where, yes, we've seen in Noah's years as a Dolphin and in preseason this year, teams pick on Noah Igbenogany. We can't help that. However, what you can do is just make sure that, we try and give him as much help as possible. And then all the guys you mentioned before, listen, I still would rather bring someone else in. I just, off the top of my head, can't think of a veteran corner who can come in week 1, knows the system, play quite well, but is happy to play for basically only a month. Like, that person right now doesn't exist. If they do, good luck finding them.
So, Kadeem, I want to jump in on that real quick, because to me, at the professional level especially, if you have to go out there and say, all right, we know this guy can't do his job, Javon Holland, you've got to basically watch this side of the field. Now you're basically taking and stripping the do your job mentality and what their job is and role in this defense. I mean, Javon Holland's at his best because he's so unpredictable. And if he's going to be over on that side of the field, at that point, you need to throw in Keon Cross and see if he can do it. If you know you can't count on Igbo, you need to throw in a Kader Kohu. See if he can do it. Throw Nick Needham in. Because at that point, at the end of the day, you're basically taking a lot of the unpredictability of the Dolphins offense and doing what Miami did in those first 8 games last year, which is come out with a predictable ass defense. And that's just no good at that point. I mean, I think it was Sarney or Larry, you said, is nickel or boundary more important? I think that's going to depend on a week-to-week matchup. It's depending on which team we're facing, where they're aligning guys and this and that. It's going to be very different each and every week.
Alex.
I think the answer better be on the roster, because I don't think you're going to find anybody in the scrap heap that's going to solve your problems. And, Buffalo is the big one that you look at, because thankfully, and listen, I may end up eating my words in a couple weeks, but I don't think the New England Patriots look quite as dangerous as some people thought that they did, at least coming out of that preseason. Maybe Belichick will just flip a magic switch week 1 and oh my God, where was he hiding this version?
I don't know,
Mac
Alex.
Jones?
They're depending on Devontae. We know how that works. You know what I'm saying?
I'm just tempting the football gods to smite me, but it's it's a little bit scary, because obviously how important Byron Jones is to that defensive backfield, but at the same time, it's also, I just have this morbid curiosity where I want to see what a guy like Caden Crossan can do, who's just he's been a special teams ace for so many years, limited opportunities, but he looks the part to me. I'm really a fan of what Kader Kohu, however I say that, has done that, because I've heard commentators pronounce his name 5 different ways. I'm a fan of what he's done in the preseason. So I think that they have enough for 3 weeks, and they better have enough, right? Because again, I don't think that the answer is in the scrap heap. I also don't think that the answer is Noah Igbenogany. So anybody else outside of Noah, I'm pretty much good with.
So let's welcome Gio, host of Miami Sports Fanatics around. Gio, how's it going, brother?
What's up, everybody, man? What's up? Sorry for the late arrival here, man.
How dare you?
Yeah, I know, right? Everybody else was here. Jeez Louise.
It's even worse, Chris, that it was that I had this idea, and of course I would show up late on the first episode.
Yep, you would. Gio's been asking me to put this together and us to do this, and I'm glad you made it at least late. At least you made it at all. So, all right. What we were finding out is our circumstance. Well, Paul, go ahead.
Real quick, you better be worried about Devontae Parker, because he had a huge preseason here. He had 3 receptions on 6 targets for 26 yards.
Yes. So we're talking about the cornerback depth, who we're going to see in there. And, I mean, look, to me, these first 2 weeks, they should be putting Noah Igbenogany out there. Let's see. This is not a team from the Patriots that I'm so super worried about in him taking some snaps against. And, okay, I don't want to see him get exposed, because Lamar Jackson does have the arm strength to do something about it. But what I don't want is us to be week 3 and need him on the boundary, and then we can see what happened with Diggs again, and then now the guy is done for and stuff like that. So
when it comes to Byron Jones, we saw this 2 years ago. When he leaves the lineup, he can't mirror one side of the field and allow Xavier Howard to be a little bit more creative and moving around. When I look at the first 4 games, to me, the Dolphins have to come out of these first 4 games against the Patriots, the Bengals, the Ravens, and the Bills. They've got to come out at least 2-2. We've seen what happens over the last 2 years when they start off 1-3. They're having to win the rest of the year, and they still don't make the playoffs. But it's kind of split as far as Byron Jones, where we always need him, but his impact.
Kat, I think what you're saying is how spoiled have we become with this Dolphins fans? We've got 2 great corners. Most teams don't have one, and I know where you're going. Is that kind of where you're going with it? I mean, look at us. We're complaining about we don't have perfection.
I said need him and threw myself off. So my point is with the Ravens and the Patriots, 2 of those first 4 games, they're not. I mean, you're talking about Kendrick Bourne as their second receiver in New England, and you're talking about Devin Duvernay as their second receiver with the Ravens. So you may not need Byron Jones as much in those those 2 games. But then you play the Bills, where they've got Gabe Davis, who had 4 touchdowns in the playoffs in his last game, and then you've got T. Higgins, who is an 1,100-yard receiver. So it's kind of split. The Dolphins have to hold their finger in the dam at cornerback in at least 2 of those games.
Yeah, that's kind of my point of why they need to kind of get Noah kind of rolling in those first 2 games in some way, in some capacity, because if Crossan goes down because he's already been kind of nicked up, or we're having to lean on him in the 3rd and 4th game against the Bills and against Cincinnati, it's going to be a long day for the defense. It's going to be a long day. Go ahead.
Yeah, just quickly. So I know I mentioned Noah. Noah was the one because he's probably the weakest link at corner. I think anyone you put opposite Xavier Howard is going to need some kind of help. They probably won't need as much help as Noah, but again, it's still a lot of what ifs, or hopefully that person can become something, Like we mentioned, Kieran Crossan, we don't know what we're going to get from him on the boundary. Kader Kohu, we have no idea what we're going to get from him. So again, the difficulty is that do you just bite the bullet, pay Joe Hayden $6 million for basically a month and say, can you not embarrass us? Can you help us out? But then again, at that point, it's one of those things where maybe the Dolphins don't want to spend $6 million on just a month. And I can understand the logic behind saying, okay, we're going to warm up Noah with some of these easy games. The problem with that is he had easy matchups in, was it the Bucks joint practice, where the guy completely smoked him? It's like, dude, come on. It's not, it's not even Julio Jones. You just been burnt by someone who probably didn't even make their final roster.
I don't even know the guy's name still. I don't even know his name still.
Again, like you said, we've been blessed that we're having this conversation about, who do we find to replace Byron Jones? And in that's the way possible, unless you're going and taking another team's, cornerback 1, you kind of just have to accept that that's going to be a weak side of the field. However, the Dolphins defense is good enough that hopefully they can mitigate for that one weak side of the field for the first 4 games.
Yeah, and I think not only does the defense have obviously mitigatory aspects to it, a good pass rush, up-and-coming D-line, help all around in the secondary, 2 good safeties. I think also the offense. I mean, at the end of the day, they might be willing to rock with what we got to rock with for a month because they think this offense is going to be more proficient, put up more points than it did last year, and with the solid defense around that weakness and the offense firing on more cylinders, hopefully, they might think they can hang. Yeah, and look, everybody's got to do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, every team is going to have a weakness at some point. Every team has a weakness going in. So that's how football is played. I think they're just going to – they got to run with it. I don't think they're going to – at this point, they got the guys that know the system. They're gonna run with it, and we got to run with it, and that's going to be that.
And when looking, I think, guys, if we want to jump in real quick about the first 2 games, you got Mac Jones and mediocre at best receivers. So that's a very tolerable cornerback pass coverage situation. And then, look, obviously you get Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, but look what happened last year with the same defense, and Josh Boyer is going to make that same call because that was the game where the defense, look, the Houston game before that was one of the worst football games ever, but defensively they were pretty solid. But that Raven game, I mean, come on, Byron Jones, Javon Holland, Brandon Jones, that was a different defense. If they pull that defense, Lamar's still thinking about that game, so decent setup first 2.
I took his colors on that game.
There you go. Yes, Cap. It's the back 2 games of that.
You trying to say that Lamar's going to be seeing ghosts? Is that what you're trying to say here?
Not Darnold ghosts, because they're different kind of ghosts. They're backfield ghosts.
Poltergeists.
Poltergeists. I like that, Cap. But I mean, that game was other level, and they're going to have to adjust to that. And Boyer, I think, could be a whole chess master for that game. But let's see what happens week 1. So if the Dolphins could take care of business week 1, not getting too ahead of myself, but those week 3, week 4, that's what I'm really worried about now with that Byron Jones. Not going to lie to you there.
What are you going to say, Kat?
Take a look at how Lamar Jackson performed after he played the Dolphins. I really feel like any defensive coordinator that didn't replicate what the Dolphins did, which was basically send the house, not only create pressure, but also eliminate all of his escape routes every play. I mean, I thought he got ruined by the Dolphins. And the biggest mistake any NFL team can make here this year is not replicating what the Dolphins do. But one thing I want to go back to is something I'm stuck between what Kadeem said and what you said there is that Joe Hayden worth signing for 4 games to play at a serviceable level for $6 million, for example. And then on the other hand, I say everyone knows who Joe Hayden is. He's 33 years old. He's a 3-4-time Pro Bowler. Why have 32 out of 32 teams agreed that this guy can't play anymore?
I don't know.
I don't know the answer to that question, really.
So I did hear something from Drew Rosenhaus, and this is, I mean, look, that's his agent. So let's remember what we're dealing with here. But I like Drew. I think he's a pretty forward dude from at least what I've heard. He says that Joe not just wants what money he wants, but he doesn't want to be exactly what we're saying we need him to be. He wants to be the third cornerback, playing on the field, getting out there and being a part of stuff. And so in a perfect world, that's who I want, because could you imagine if he was in our DB room? Here's the real conundrum. Because of the shortcomings of Noah Igbenogany, this is the situation we're trying to juggle. If Noah was even Kader Kahoo as an undrafted free agent, at least we could see upside in that situation. It's a real problem. Alex, what do you think?
Oh, man, I completely agree. And the Joe Hayden thing really has me thinking. I think Brian just made an awesome point that it's like, if he is desirable, and I'm not even saying, like, Cap, I'm not trying to, like, crap on your point, because that I gravitate towards shiny objects.
Go ahead.
No.
Shit all over
Seriously, I gravitate towards shiny objects, and Joe Hayden is a name. He is a proven commodity in this league. But I think that's a great point that Brian made, that why are 32 teams why not 1 out of 32 teams clamoring to get this guy's services? And then I thought Kadeem made an awesome point that it's like you're talking about maybe $6 million for a 4-game rental. That's why I go back to what I started this with.
I agree with Don right there.
Yeah, you've got to find a way to make it work for the first month of a season without Byron Jones. And honestly, I think that this defense, obviously they're well coached, and I believe in Boyer as a play caller. I believe in this personnel in the front 7, and I think they can be serviceable enough to hide one spot on the field. And Cap, when you mentioned something about how spoiled Dolphin fans are, with 2 really good corners, that's just in our DNA, man. I mean, I came up with Surtain and Madison. Like, it's just it's in our DNA to be spoiled about.
That's right.
About cornerback
that's
play.
that Miami swagger.
Throw Terrell Buckley in there. Throw Terrell Buckley in there, moving Surtain to the slot.
Yeah.
Go all the way back, bro. Hell yeah.
I want everything.
I'm gonna take and say this: our defensive line and our linebackers are definitely better than last year, and they were really great last year. And I feel like we only got better in that area. And it's going to do our cornerbacks that much more. So it'll be that much more easier for them, because these quarterbacks, if you're a quarterback and you're facing against the Miami Dolphins, your life's going to be a living hell this year.
And I want to throw it to Gio after this, and then I'll throw it to you, Kadeem. I'm thinking in this situation, this is now all Josh Boyer's defense. He doesn't have a head coach that's a defensive-minded coach. He will be the El Jefe to the El Capitan of being in charge of how he wants to build it. And I look at our linebacking unit, what kind of guys we got around here. So maybe we will see a more emphasis on bringing organic pressure and not doing so many blitz packages. And not that we don't want to not see the zero blitz. We definitely want to see that, Paul. You know it. But I'm just wondering what kind of tweaks we'll see out of Josh Boyer different than what we've had.
Look, in all honesty, Cap, I'm going to jump in on this one. It's Boyer was doing that all-out blitz package from when he was back at the engineering school. That's something that he had to do because he didn't have the size, so he had to basically manufacture pressure from his secondary, from his linebacker core, from all over the field, because he didn't have those big, powerful guys up front at I forget the name of the school off the top of my head, but that's where he made his bones and got that look to move up to the NFL level. So I don't expect that to stop, because that was really more a product of Boyer's past and history than
Paul,
maybe Flores looked at it and said, "Oh yeah, well that's cool. Come with me."
So Paul, what you're saying is that the good defense last year was Boyer and the bad defense was Flores? Because we've heard this argument, have we not, guys? We know what I'm talking about.
That tidbit is really fascinating to me that Paul just gave it. It changes my entire outlook.
Very gray area. There's like a lot of mixtures in there, but Paul's onto something. But to be fair, there's a lot of cooks in that kitchen.
Yeah,
but there's two different kitchens.
And you know, I have no doubt that, like, I'm not going to be one of these people that's going to say, you know what, Flo, all the bad stuff was Flo. I think there was probably a lot of good from Flo. I mean, listen, I don't like the way Flo just managed offensive coaches. Like, I thought that's where he really dropped the ball. I thought that he
didn't play well with others.
No, didn't play well with others, and just really didn't care to surround himself with competent people to run an offense. It was ridiculous. But I give him full respect on the defensive side of the football, and I'm sure Boyer had something to do with that. Like Jason said, a lot of cooks in the kitchen. And then the other thing is, I'm assuming Josh Boyer is probably smart enough to hopefully retain some of the good that he maybe learned or absorbed from Flo and realize, okay, Flo knew how to push certain buttons that really worked for this defense. I need to make sure I incorporate that now that I'm flying on my own and he's no longer here. So I hope that's the case.
How dare you curse Flo, Alex? I mean, the man went through 4 offensive coordinators in 3 years, with the last one being dual offensive coordinators, neither of whom called plays. How dare you?
Maybe 3.
We're still trying to figure out who was in charge of that. Yeah, we were still trying to figure
coordinators who don't call plays.
Listen, he's a trendsetter because of the Patriots like what they saw out of it. I mean, look what they got going on in that whole mess right there. What's up, Gio?
So there was a couple good points that I heard here, man. I apologize for the SMR, man. I didn't read. Listen, one thing about GOT is I live in Nevada, 420 friendly out here, man, and just taking my medicinal doses, bro.
Just keeping himself even. We don't want Gio throwing his microphone and screaming at everybody right now. Go ahead.
That's right, bro. I gotta be leveled, man. I gotta be leveled. But a couple people made a couple good points. First of all, I think this whole segment started by we're worried about Byron Jones being out, how we gotta play the defense, this and that. If we have to go get someone else, I think someone mentioned Kader Kohu and also Keon Crossan. Yeah. So I'm pretty excited about those two guys. I've seen a lot more from them than Noah. I do see Noah is listed second, but someone mentioned Josh Boyer and the cover 0 defense. I actually think I wouldn't be surprised if that's exactly what the Dolphins do for those first 4 or 5 games, is just run that defense, take some stress out of the cornerbacks, because we got a crazy front 4, front 7 even, to go ahead and get pressure on the quarterback and just, force these quarterbacks to hurry up on their timing, make mistakes, get some sacks out there, turnovers. But I wouldn't be surprised if we do that to alleviate the pressure. I wouldn't be surprised, too, if that ends up helping Noah, maybe even Kader Kohu look better, or Keon Crossan. So I don't think we should.
He's the workload for the young guys on the boundary filling in. Yeah. That's a great point. Kadeem, go ahead, and then we're going to switch to some offense.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say, like, I think it's very Miami Dolphins fans of us that, we're talking about worst case scenario that we have to see Noah. But it's one of those things where we legit might not see Noah, because the guys we mentioned, let's be like,
why is this guy on the football team? Why? Why am I not seeing a first-round draft pick? Why?
I think outside of the opening drive against the Raiders, and they just completely torched Noah, no offense completely killed our defense. And that was with guys like Elijah Campbell and all that kind of stuff. That was without, Jalen Phillips, Ogbar, Holland, Howard. So you add all those guys in, and you say to a Crossan or whoever it is, a Nick Needham, all you've basically got to do is make sure that the wide receiver number 2, who is going to be okay, just don't get burnt by this one dude. And I think at that point, like, me trying to be positive is literally, for the first 4 or 5 games, can we just have a average NFL corner, which again for the rest of the NFL, that's what they have to deal with. The Bills are missing Tre'Davious White. Who's their cornerback too? Right now, I couldn't tell you.
Oh my God! Great point. I don't have no idea who that guy is.
So we're here going, okay, we're missing Byron Jones. Obviously, Bills fans will say they've got X, Y, and Z. It is what it is. But they've got to manage Gesicki, Waddle, and Hill against their cornerback too. Give us your best player against our cornerback too, and it's a somewhat even matchup. So as long as it's not Noah, I think we're going to be okay.
Beautifully put.
And before you get onto the offense, and I hate to jump in, but just as the defense overall, from a personnel standpoint, I mean, the Dolphins were bottom 3 in every statistical category in the first 6 weeks of last season. But there are a few factors that play into that. Xavier Howard and Byron Jones were hurt. Javon Holland he wasn't really even playing yet all that much. Brandon Jones led the league in sacks as a safety. He wasn't playing all that much, and he wasn't playing well when he did. Jalen Phillips didn't come on until the second part of the year. Christian Wilkins didn't start emerging to the second part of the year. I mean, that's half the defense right there.
And Ginkel played bad.
Van Ginkel was nowhere.
Was injured.
And then
wasn't his fault.
They were not blitzing Van Ginkel.
That's
and
right.
then once that game 9, that Raven game, he, I think, blitzed the quarterback a total first 8 weeks, 25 times. And then the next 8 weeks, like 57 times. He finished in the top 2 of QB hurries and the top 7 of actual hits. Everyone else was a Pro Bowl. So he's not getting sacks, but everyone else is eating since week 8. Week 7, tough. I mean, previous week, yes, but I love Van Ginkel.
I love Van Ginkel. I hope they figure a way to sign this man. He's a lifer around here. I love the way
every play he tries 100%. He might not win every play. Every play he's given 100%.
Christian and he's more noticeable with the hair. Like you always know when
I think Riley is trying to emulate that. It looks like Duke's trying to copy it.
Yes. And you know what, too? If we had a whole team of Van Ginkels and Christian Wilkinses, those types of dudes, man, that'd be a good football team. So let's
and last point I'll make on the defense is that it always comes back to me. Van Ginkel's a perfect example that you have to keep attacking and attacking and attacking. And when you start playing back because you're afraid of one cornerback, I think that hurts the rest of the defense. Let's live and die with that one cornerback spot and getting it corrected.
Love it. Live and die by the sword.
Real quick before we move on. So for Josh Boyer, after 1 year at the South Dakota School of Mines and Technology, he was innovative enough with that defensive scheme and personnel usage that the Patriots signed him away from the South Dakota School of Mines and Technology.
Wow.
Bro, that's huge.
Scout team that, dude. Holy cow, what a scout team.
That is really fascinating because it explains a lot, I think, about the pressures and the way we run our defense that I was completely unaware of, dude. That's a hell of a tidbit, sir.
So, Larry, dive deep on that because there's a lot of interesting tidbits about the way that he had to literally utilize people that, barely played high school football.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to take a deep dive. That's absolutely fascinating, dude. Absolutely.
To get hired by an NFL team and scouted as such, that you're right. I'll have to take a look at that.
Belichick's got cameras everywhere. Come on now.
Oh yeah, he's got people trying to poke people from everywhere, bro.
Which one of y'all are reporting back to Belichick in the chat? Let me know right now. I know he's in here watching right now.
I mean, even the acronym is a mouthful. It's SDSM and T.
That's crazy.
They put an and sign in it too?
Oh yeah.
No way! They got an and sign. That's awesome.
I need that bar hat. Remember those old school bar hats with just like the
Dono
knows.
They've got some fan swag because I'm gonna get me some.
Heck yeah! Go. I'll tell you what, show up with one of those hats to a game. I bet you Josh
since this conversation seems to have taken a different turn, let me just add this one last defensive tidbit before we go to the offense. I am still very concerned. My biggest concern on defense is the linebacking unit. Coverage-wise, I need to see some differences as far as in the cover. Yeah, I have noticed Tyndall has been a little bit more awake lately. Maybe the system's coming to him, but I'm still not sold that Jerome Baker still seems to have had some issues. He's had some tackling issues.
Baker.
But man, I really need to see him take a step forward in the coverage department because he seems still a little slow to react. And notice the running back in motion. That bit us a couple of times last year, especially against the Tampa Bay versus Brady and Leonard Fournette. He needs to be more of a quarterback in that department. The fact that they're now sharing the green dot leads me to believe that the defense doesn't even fully trust him anymore in being the quarterback of that defense. So I need to see more from Jerome Baker. If he goes down this year, knock on wood, that I have possible.
Jerome Baker goes down, we're going to be hurting because that man is the Swiss Army knife. He's the grease that makes the engine turn, and I love him, dude. So, all right, let's shift gears a little bit onto the offensive side. So we got a little bit of to taste on from them. Thank God, because I'll tell you what, it was unanimous through Dolphins fans that we weren't going to see the first team, the third preseason game, and how they left us with such a vanilla outing in the second preseason game. I almost feel like they did this for the fans in some ways. They heard the outpour of what we wanted to see, needed to see, to feel a little bit more comfortable in all this situation. But even then, we didn't see the perfection ideology. We don't have Alec Ingold out there in this run game. We didn't have Tron Armstead.
They didn't give away too much.
What? That's right. I think those were even vanilla plays, just with the more dynamic players on the field.
Bro, there were like 3 throws to the left, bro. Well, and two intermediate slants on the outside.
The rollout pass to Tyreek Hill was the exact same play that they ran for the touchdown to Craycraft. It was the exact same thing.
The execution was great. Yeah, the execution. That's what I love seeing the most. I love the play design, but the execution, bro. This was
the thing I think we had hoped for the most. The respect for the running game. And when you have respect for the running game, as the whole line goes one way, the defense is forced to do so. You tangle in the linebackers, and now you just work against the DBs, and it makes the situation for the quarterback a lot easier because he's almost like, there goes everybody. The whole defensive line and all linebackers are out of my algorithm that I need to work to beat this defense right now. Kadeem.
Yeah, I think the picture of Kevon Wallace after the Eagle-Dolphins game. And
he's like all taped up. He's all hemmed up from playing us in a preseason game.
He must have fought 12 rounds with Anthony Joshua because you do not look like that after an NFL game. It's one of those things where, going into the preseason games, one thing Dolphins fans wanted to see was, can Tua throw deep? And that opening play, Tua was like, again, I've got you. We obviously had a massive reaction to, was it underthrown, all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to get into it. But the one thing again, like you mentioned, there was no Tron Armstead, no Jalen Waddle, a bunch of guys who weren't even there, and it just looked so explosive. And, El Capitan, we had a conversation on Go Time Dolphins at the start of last season, and we were like, the Dolphins don't do chunk plays. The Dolphins don't have guys open down the field. Every single offensive drive is an absolute struggle. And on that opening drive, the Dolphins kind of showed that
game changer,
100%. So I won't talk too long, but it's one of those things where as they continue to bond and develop and merge and you get Jalen Waddle back, this offense could be quite scary.
So, Alex, I know you got about 5 minutes left. Why don't you go ahead and give us a rundown? Make sure to plug all your stuff afterwards, too.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I thought you hit it on the head when you talked about them kind of doing that for the fans. And I think to what Kadeem was saying, when you literally see Tua throw deep to Tyreek Hill on the very first play, that to me was for the fans. I mean, obviously that's, during the regular season, hopefully we're going to see that for the Dolphins so that they can win games and score a lot of touchdowns. But I just think that the fact that they made a point to do that on the very first play of the game, the fans got their money's worth immediately. And listen, most of you guys probably know I'm very much on the fence on Tua still to this point. I troll him a little bit, so a lot of people think I'm a hater. I'm not. That's not really genuine.
I troll a little bit too, and they think I'm a hater. It's fun.
It's a lot of fun.
Fans.
Because the thing, Cap, a lot of people don't realize this. I tried it the other way because I can be a troll. I tried trolling the Tua haters, and it just wasn't that fun. Trolling the Tua fans, because they get that's fun. They get really sensitive. But honestly, man, I think that there's definitely always something to say about quarterbacking, how much they benefit from the talent around them. And, Chris Greer and company, they went out of their way to put Tua in a position to succeed. And it's not just personnel with all the players they brought in. Mike McDaniel, to me, this guy is a gem. Like, I can't guarantee you that he's a great head coach because we don't know how good of a CEO he is just yet. But when it comes to play design and teaching complex concepts in simple terms to offensive players, the guy is a gem. So I hope he figures out all the other head coaching stuff, because you can be a good schemer and still fail as a head coach. We've seen it happen. I want this guy to succeed because I think he's incredibly, incredibly intelligent with the way that he designs these plays. So that's number one for me. Even though I'm on the fence with Tua, I think he could very well end up succeeding. I just hope that that Skylar Thompson doesn't get lost in Tua's shadow, that eventually he gets traded somewhere else and becomes a Pro Bowler. But that's neither here nor there. I thought the biggest important thing from the final preseason game was you actually got to see, okay, they can run the football, right? Because the first two preseason games, that was a huge concern. Like, I came out of those first two games where they're averaging like 1 yard per carry.
I was slamming. I was like, "Where's this run game coordinator genius at? Where are we at?"
And I know the starters, most positions weren't in there, but it was still concerning to me. And then I think they had 203 team rushing yards against Philadelphia. It looked so much better, and you could see how the running game was complementing the passing game. So it was. I thought it was just beautiful. And I didn't know how much I needed that, because I guess I would have been perfectly content going through that Philly game with none of the starters playing and not learning anything about the team's identity, and I could have come out and that had been fine. That's just the way things go. But I'm so happy that they gave us something. I'm so happy we got to see Tua and Tyreek on the field at the same time. I'm so happy we got to see 200 rushing yards and the defense doing good things, and we got to see Skylar time. So it was a nice ending to the preseason. We all get this little break this weekend to marinate on training camp and all that before we actually hit the field. But I thought that was a great way to end the preseason. And yeah, Cap, I think they did it for the fans. And thank you guys. I got to run, so I want to let everybody know I am going to be doing more Dolphins content starting next week on Tuesdays. Well, actually, it's going to be usually on Mondays, but we're doing it Tuesday this week because of Labor Day. I'm going to be hosting The Extra Yard with Troy Stratford, who, I'm sure you guys all know. I've known Troy for years. I've done some radio with him, so I'm bringing him into the digital side. It's going to be normally Mondays at 3 p.m. It's just going to be Tuesday next week because of the schedule. And I'm out of my element a little bit.
Right? On
5 Reasons Sports. Yeah, the Extra Yard on 5 Reasons Sports. I'm a little bit out of my element tonight because I've been doing so much college football lately. Just diving headfirst into the Miami Hurricanes, so I think are going to have a very interesting season. Hopefully a really good season. Very interesting. I host Locked On Canes on the Locked On Podcast Network. We're having a great time with that, so you guys can make sure if you're watching this on YouTube, YouTube is probably your go-to platform. Subscribe to Locked On Canes on YouTube. We're trying to get to 5,000 subscribers by the Texas A&M game in a few weeks. We're at about 4,500, so we want to cross that 5K line. And I want this show to cross the 500K line. This show deserves more followers.
Yeah, there's definitely guys you need to most certainly go check out the Locked On Canes, dude. And the Canes community pouring in on the Locked On Canes. It's a beautiful thing. I'm very excited about the Canes' future coming up, man.
Thank you all so much.
Alex, thanks for coming, brother. Really appreciate it, man. I'll reach out. We'll try to do these a little bit every now and again.
I think Doug, I'm going to see tomorrow. I think I'm going to be on Doug's show tomorrow. So I'm
word out. Yeah, good deal. All right, Alex. See you again, brother. Take it easy, man.
See ya.
Hey, Cap, before we move on from what Alex was just saying, I think the first two preseason games, and this is something Kat and I talked about a lot, we didn't see a Mike McDaniel's designed offense. What we saw was an offense that was basically the equivalent of what we ran in the Titans game last year, or not the Titans game, unfortunately, but it was, call-ins of, okay, run kind of that way, or run forward, and we'll just call it a day, just see what you can do. As opposed to, in this one, we saw a little bit more of that Mike McDaniel scheming the alleyways as opposed to just, hey, go that way this time.
Yep. Yeah, it seems like everything with a purpose. Go ahead, Kadeem.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, to follow on from what Paul said, Mike McDaniel came out and said that. He basically said he didn't want to scheme any run plays because he wanted to see what guys can do if he literally said, run the ball. Like, the one thing we know about this Mike McDaniel, Shanahan, or, this one system in general, is that you can plug in anyone and they just completely go off. So if he already knows that I can set up, 10 run plays and you'll go for 100 yards, great. But what I need to know is, can you actually run the ball? Can you put your head down, make a guy miss and stuff like that?
This is why Sony got clipped.
And I was going to say that I know people said that they were surprised that Michelle got cut. I wasn't, because I saw him run and I was like, dude, this ain't it.
Right.
Like, I know, over on Go Time Dolphins, people kind of go, why do you guys like Miles Gaskin so much? One, we interviewed him, so we're always going to have him up. But two,
got a little bit of favoritism with
yeah.
that.
But two, like you can't get rid of him. Like I can't even say he runs the ball well. Whatever he does in the building, he's
not top tier. But I'll be damned if the man don't get the job done. He's great out of the pass game. Yeah. He does his job more often than fails his job in pass protection. And when he has good running lanes, he hits the hole and does a good work. The one thing I have the problem is breaking arm tackles. And you know what? I think he's getting better at it. And remember, he's still a young dude, still a young man.
And he was one of the most productive in those first two games where, as Kadeem was pointing out, it was like, all right, let's just see if you can run the ball. And then I'll design, you'll be even better when I open those lanes for you. And he was getting it done.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to see things and nuances that he hasn't even put in yet, like just the way that they not hand off the ball, but maybe do a toss on more of an inside run, because that's what he used to say in San Francisco. He wants to create a way for linebackers and next level people to think, what might they be doing? Oh, it's still plain, but they already went another foot or two over, where that's the difference between 3 yards and 5 or 6 yards on first down. So we haven't seen any of that fun stuff yet. We saw a little bit when Tua kind of did an exaggerated play fake, like it was almost going to be a toss, and then he just went to the left, and it was a boom, touchdown to Craycraft. So there's a lot of fun things that I think we're not even going to think about that last year's offensive crew didn't even know of. So best yet to come.
The evidence of that, when it comes to offense, and this goes back to what Gio said about 15 minutes ago, as far as the offense, they didn't show that much. And some people think that they did offensively in the first couple of games. The evidence of that is Mike McDaniel's offense last year with San Francisco used receivers and tight ends in motion 82% of the time, which was far and away most in the league. How many times did we see that in the first two preseason games? Not
oh my God!
much.
It was, and then that last one, we seen it every freaking play. It seemed like Paul or Brian, you're 1,000,000%.
I mean,
I said, I think it was last night. I said I expect us to run motion like 80% or something like that.
So you take my, I don't get into the two of, is he a star? Is he a bust? I don't get into all that stuff. I don't care. We're going to find out this year. The things I'm excited about is you've got Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill on offense, and you can use them in motion as often as Mike McDaniel did with the 49ers here last year. And you also have a running game with the 49ers who, even with Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson and these guys, who averaged just among their running backs over 5 yards a carry over the last 2 years. That's what's exciting for me.
And something I noticed in looking at some of the film and some of that, you'll see where, like, it's the key point and, like, the left tackle and the whole line is moving that direction, and then they wall off that whole end to create even that extra dump-off option for Tua if you got to go back to the other side. It's really going to be impressive, and it comes down. And we heard this the entire time. We heard it's about the blocking. Everyone here's got something to do with offensive line and blocking and all that stuff. That's, I think, why I was worried about it in the first two preseason games. I'm like, wait a minute, where's a little bit of this install happening? I'm seeing more of the same. And I thank God that they gave us this, because you imagine if they still played it close to the vest, how unbearable we would all have to deal with everything between now and week one to show something different.
So, Cap, what I'll tell you too is from somebody that coaches even youth football. We have jamborees and scrimmages, and sometimes we'll literally throw a 3-play offense together out of a formation we're never going to use, because literally people scout at this level, and we just don't want to give anything away before the real games start. So that's where I can't bank on it for what people do in the preseason. And that's, I think, where for me, like, at the pro level, the amount of subterfuge and, trying to mask what you're going to do.
Great word.
People have to remember, like, we're all excited about McDaniel. Don't crash and burn over what he does or doesn't do and call in the preseason, because he even has a tendency to take things one week and flip them on their head for the next week. So all those keys people are studying during the week are something that tells a whole different story than what they're doing from the same exact imagery the following week. So, there's all these stories about when he was out in San Francisco, he'd lock himself in the room for a day or two at the beginning of the week, come out on Tuesday or Wednesday and teach Shanahan and everybody else the offense for the week, and then for a day, and then they would move on to doing all that flip-flopping around for the players. So, it's for them to not show anything in the preseason, I totally believe that. What they're showing in week 1 is probably going to look completely different in week 2 from the same looks.
Man, I can't wait.
100%. And not only that, he to interject on that and piggyback from Paul, because I love piggybacking. Mike McDaniel has said that even he has a whole ton of plays in a folder that he's made himself that he's never shared with anybody. So on top of drawing plays up and teaching it to the staff, Kyle Shanahan,
like from Waterboy, he's got that green book where he's just
having these meetings, bro, with these older coaches out here. This young McLovin looking like coach, because that's what everyone calls him out there, every other fan base, right? He's out here coaching these other coaches in a room, captivating the rooms, bro. It's crazy because he has a way of captivating a group of people, especially when he starts talking about what he knows. But second of all, I'm very excited because that bomb to Tyreek Hill, not only was it as vanilla as you can draw it, but at the same time, Waddle wasn't even on the field.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. And too, if you notice, and I did a little bit of breakdown on a video last night, it doesn't even look like Tua put everything he had into it. So I could see if it was short, and I seen him just heave it, like Russell Wilson would do. We've all seen Russell Wilson heave the ball down the field.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Didn't even look that way. It looked like he just put it out there, kept that quick release, and it's still, yes, and Tua's the kind of guy, and he said his post game, he's got to get a little bit better at the timing. And that's to be said. It still is preseason. They start getting that kink worked out and hitting those shots. This offense will be unstoppable.
Want to make a quick point on that throw? The throw that everyone criticizes, a 51-yard completion, and everyone's criticizing it. Now, Mike Tannenbaum goes on and says that if it was thrown
2
more yards, it was a touchdown. Well, I have a question that I would like to ask him directly if he's watching. What if it was thrown 2 yards to the right? It could have been picked off. There were two options.
Yeah.
Completion, harmless fall to the ground, but at least we all would have said they took a shot. There was no chance any defender was getting their hand on the ball. There was two potential options.
You saw the 22, Jason, from the backside. Yeah. You see the ball comes
exactly
and to the left. That's
where
he wanted it to go.
Exactly. And it was worst case scenario, would have been a drop. Lo and behold, playmaker made a play, 51-yard completion. 3 plays later, touchdown. What are we arguing?
We're not.
Right.
And great point with Waddle not being on the field, because that takes the whole top off of everything.
Oh, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Brian,
I don't mean to mince words, but Mike Tannenbaum is the biggest piece of human garbage on the planet.
Oh my God! Did you not? He is one bad away from obscurity.
He's a step above Wannstedt.
I mean, imagine him being the consultant for Steve Ross, who that's a whole different story.
Oh my
for 2 years, and then saying, "Hey, you know who should be the general manager? Me."
Terrible.
And then he becomes that general manager and makes decisions. Then
we wonder how this team was in the shitter.
Think about the two of them in a room too. That interaction. Just think about look at them and how they communicate. Oh my God! And their bad takes.
And then he leaves and he's right on Justin Herbert.
I feel like Tannenbaum is the Kim Kardashian of the NFL. He is so he is a groupie. He's a liar. He does stuff for fame, for clout. And then
Tannenbaum's butt's that big?
His forehead is actually.
Yeah.
I don't hate.
He's a butthead. He's a butthead. He got a big old forehead. There you go. Round and round we go. Man,
it's worse than Stephen A. Smith, and he's so full of himself, man. He acts like he knows it all, man. He's such a groupie, man. He's somebody like when he talks, I don't hear. It's like another language. He's speaking Mandarin to me. So.
It's funny because I look at him and he doesn't seem like a guy that's overconfident, and I'm like, wow, this guy has convinced billionaires to give him tons of money and responsibility. How am I not getting this job? How is this guy doing?
He can very well be the goal for New England. He destroyed the Jets and the Dolphins.
I love how Louis Riddick passively aggressively kind of shows him up when it's his time to evaluate Tua, because it's like completely left field. You have Louis Riddick out here praising how much better Tua is going to be for all the right reasons why, but then you have Mike Tannenbaum trying to do the opposite. So it's funny. I love seeing that tug of war when it comes to two past GMs over our hopeful franchise quarterback here pretty soon.
Larry, you were going to say something?
I forget. No, I think I was just going to say when you mentioned that we got a little taste, and thank God we did with the offense, that, I would compare it to like a really good espresso or like one of those hot sauces that you only put a dab on, because it was just a little bit. We didn't even have Waddle in, but it hit so damn nice, and it really drove home, a belief in me anyway, that this schematically, that guys understand what they're doing, that there is coaching that I think is well coached. I think the personnel was put together properly. And I think it does give us some hope and some optimism now.
What a staff on the offensive side, am I right?
Yeah.
It was the wasabi on the sushi, Larry. That's what it was.
Man.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dude, perfect. Perfect analogy.
Little dab will do you.
And I saw Paul coming up with that analogy, too, because I saw him smirk and be like, yeah, I got it. I respect that.
It gave us faith there is coaching.
Yes.
It's just going to be funny.
It's phenomenal. But listen, guys, I actually got to run, man. It was an absolute pleasure being on the cast with all you guys, and I'm definitely down to keep doing it and to host it soon enough. So
man, we're gonna figure a way. We'll make it work. Larry, go ahead, plug the show, man.
Man. So Fin Addict Fury, it's just like it's on my thing right there. Anybody I wasn't subscribed to, I just subscribed to. If I didn't find you, subscribe to me, whatever. On the panel, I'm talking. I've been followers of you guys for a long time, all of you anyway. But Fin Addict Fury, man, we do like some pre-recorded videos. I'm going to do a win-loss prediction this week. We do review videos like almost every Sunday or Monday, and now I got a live show on Wednesdays with a panel that gets pretty lively, and we just try to approach everything objectively and intellectually, man, and kind of a lot like we had on this panel, by the way. The flow and the general energy we have is just
You're
dope,
welcome,
man.
Larry.
So,
you're welcome, everybody.
it was a damn good job with that jacket just added. So
you can thank Gio for cracking that whip to get this together on the reel. Gio's been cracking that whip. He's like, we got to do it, and I was like, we're gonna squeeze it in right before week 1, and this is the perfect time as things are kind of settling in. This will be some good stuff to chomp on for, I think, that's the viewers.
Listen, man, all I had was the idea. You guys came with the execution, bro.
Yeah, he cracked the whip on me too, but he made it happen. You both did, so it was a pleasure, guys, and I'll be back with you very soon.
Take it easy, Larry.
Later, guys.
Brian, you said you have a Gesicki question. What were you saying?
Yeah, I want to hear it, man. I want to hear it.
Given Mike Gesicki, we know what's going on with him. We're not going to make him into a blocking tight end. We're probably talking 25 to 30 snaps a game. What is the minimum you would take in a trade for Mike Gesicki right now? I'm not saying there's no talk of this going on. I'm just curious.
So it's funny that you say that, because it was different a couple weeks back, because I wanted more value. I was thinking, everyone wishes they get a first, but I was thinking, maybe a second rounder and maybe some change or something like that. Now I would be happy with a 3rd round pick straight up for him, because the capital will receive as well. I think better serves the team. at getting that money back for adding talent in this season, or even putting another, free agent signing at corner, especially. That's where I think we need it the most. But yeah, it is the curious case of Mike Gesicki. The thing I wonder is this. Does Mike Gesicki come out, and because of John Embry and what he's done for the tight end room, do we, as the year goes on, look at Mike Gesicki and are like, oh my Lord, this man has taken it to the next level? Because then the narrative will change to, we got to re-sign this guy. And how about that? That would be an amazing. Jason.
And I'll just give my quick answer and throw it around to the rest of the room on that. I would be 40% for taking a second rounder for Mike Gesicki, just because of the reasons that you just said. Because, I mean, the point was to take all of the chips and put them in the middle of the table for this year and for next year. And if you take a third rounder, you're probably going to get a third round compensatory pick, in a couple of years for Gesicki anyway, if he leaves as a unrestricted free agent. So yeah, I'm keeping him.
So
I don't care what his role is.
Jason, before I throw it to you, I just want to say this. That it was always a thing, like the production you get from Gesicki along with the compensatory pick in a trade scenario, I have to get more than that in value, quote unquote. But at where we sit now with the team, and honestly, Tanner Connor as the guy waiting in the wings, hopeful in that way. I like his talent set, but all the room and scheme as it is, the money to me for the depth we need now in positions that I think could work today. That's why I would even take less than that. And Jason, what were you going to say?
The Gesicki thing, you said a curious case of it. It's a loaded situation because, one, he's a very skilled weapon. That's the word that I like to describe. Forget he's not a tight end. He's a slot receiver. He's a weapon. Now, if utilizing a weapon correctly, it could be a very viable situation for you. I think we've all learned that in just sports. Some sports, there's quirky weapons here that might not be good at other things. You have to decide what you can live with. Utilize Gesicki in the right areas of the field. I don't need to see him in the Dolphin territory. I'll love to see him in plus territory when they get to the 40, 35, red zone. Then let's target and get him some touchdowns. If he can do that, let's give him the first month of the season before any value fluctuates, because if he starts hot, keep him. If he starts week 3, week 4, 20 snaps, like Brian said, then you might be able to say, I don't know if we're going to get that third round compensatory pick because his stats aren't going to be there. He might not sign for enough, or he might not bring that back for us. Maybe you trade him. But I think that he can get in a full season 7-8 touchdowns.
I got a point I want to say is that oftentimes we see in the draft that people that are workout warriors, he could jump this high, he could run this high. I think to do what he could jump higher than Beckham, run fast Antonio Brown at the time. And this doesn't always translate to the field, but with Mike Gesicki, I think we'd be absolutely mad if we traded him. This guy, he has a Kelsey-type style of play that this Dolphins offense definitely needs. He has a versatility. And if you ask me, the reason that we kept 5 tight ends on our team, is he's our 6th receiver.
Exactly.
Yes. In this scenario.
5 receivers kept.
Yep, right. That's right. And I think we can agree with the purview of who's going to be in the slot or even out wide in a scenario to make it 5. We're going to see him as the receiver, but he's a tight end. Paul, what were you going to say?
I like Mike Gesicki a lot, even though I still would have preferred Dallas Goedert. And
thank you.
It's Mike Gesicki's had me blocked since I typed the name Dallas Goedert on Twitter. But it's the last time he blocked anybody, which is cool, other than accidentally backing into somebody in the Raiders game. But that said, here's what I would give up. And Kat, I regret I never said this on our show because I was just thinking about it just now. I would give Gesicki up, but I would want in return at least the second round pick like we talked about. And this is why I can't wait with this trade. And a serviceable spot starter that can give you 4+ games at cornerback.
That's right.
I'll amend what I say. If there is a trade, I don't want to see something that's going to help next year. It's going to have to help this year. Because Gesicki is a guy that can help this year win. Make it, like you said, Paul, that I would tolerate per player or position. But that I would tolerate.
That would probably translate to potentially more wins
Exactly.
That's
and
right.
Get Gesicki on the roster this year and help you next year.
Exactly.
100% agree with everything you guys said.
Who turns down a Tunsil type trade? If that's the case, relatively.
Well, I think if there was a Tunsil type trade, we would have had that.
Oh,
yeah,
I would go for a Tunsil trade.
Oh man, give me some of that, bro.
If
you're getting multiple assets,
you took that up here.
Yeah, look, if you're getting multiple assets, I'm saying, like, look, you're not getting Tunsil, whatever, left tackle. But if you're going to get multiple assets for a rental for a team that's desperate for a guy right now to maybe re-sign him, that is Greer doing his job to a T. If he can get a player and say, hey, one other position group got stronger, Tanner Connor, all the other tight ends on the roster.
Well, even if Tanner Connor kind of has to stay on ice, his knee becomes more of an issue. There's still Jared, and we need that extra tight end. They want to carry 5 because of the scheme. Jared Cook, to me, that's still out on the market. If I don't think anyone's picked him up yet, but him or somebody else can fit in rotation, and you would give the lion's share of the snaps to Hunter Long, because I think Hunter Long's going to go off in this system.
That'd be great.
Excited to see him.
I tell you what,
dropping the ball.
I think something with Tanner Connor, and it's the reason I respect the Dolphins keeping him, is that when you look at, really 2 of the top 10 tight ends in NFL history, and I'm not saying Tanner Connor is going to be one of these guys, but it's a traits-driven position. It's based on speed, and it's based on length and ball skills. Antonio Gates did not play college football. He was a power forward. Jimmy Graham caught 17 passes at Miami. He's an all-time great. It is a traits-driven position. That's why I respect what the Dolphins did in keeping Tanner Connor. I did not see that coming at all. But I kind of like it in retrospect.
Yeah, the Tanner Connor thing, man. I was hearing absolute loving, glowing reviews, and that they were getting people calling. And I think they slapped that knee brace on him for a little bit of optics, honestly, because I think they're going to put him on IR. Out. They're going to put him on IR, going to let him sit on ice, give him a little bit of chang-a-lang, and we'll see you next year.
This was an undrafted free agent from Idaho State who barely played football in college.
He's winning in life right now.
Yes, he is, dude. Good for the young man.
There had to have been something Mike McDaniel saw that said, we cannot release this guy. They released a lot of talented
what I heard, Brian?
players.
You know what I heard, Brian? I heard that they had him out there on special teams, and they were doing kickoffs, and he was beating everyone by a lot on where the ball was. Smoking in pads, smoking everybody on the kickoff, first man down there. Several eyewitnesses on that. So I think they're all looking at each other going, damn, this boy that big can run that fast, and he's still a youngin' too. They were smitten at that point. And then his hands, they put him in that game. We all saw how effective. He's got fight, he plays hard, he's got hands. They were really smitten with the young man. Doug, you said you got to be running here in a second. Let me throw it to Kadeem and give some.
No, Doug, do you got to do, man? It's all good.
Go ahead, Doug.
Oh, for sure. Definitely. Hey, man, thank you so much for having me on the show. If you guys want to subscribe, predominantly all my videos are going to be on YouTube. I do cover the whole NFL, so not just the Miami Dolphins. Do a lot of NFL interviews. Had N'Kobe Dean on a couple months ago, Hassan Haskins, Danny Gray from the 49ers, a bunch of guys. Man, check me out. The Touchdown with DougSmith. That's it.
Guys. Doug gets some great interviews, some college kids. Diehard Dolphins fan, so that this, he's in the love of the Dolphins aqua and orange blood. But his show is so much more than like the different, like a lot of us were Dolphin centric. Not that you don't cover the Dolphins stuff, you are a Dolphins fan, but I gotta hand it. He's got some great programming, some great interviews and stuff like that. Make sure you guys are checking them out.
Appreciate you, man. Have a blessed night, everybody.
Take it easy, my brother. Take it
easy. Have a good night.
Later, bro. Later. Bye. So, yeah, the Tanner Connor thing, I was hearing so many great things, so much good stuff. And I knew that this young man was going to make it onto the team. I'm not surprised, but I hear you in the sense that it's a little bit 5 tight ends when we were looking at the wide receiver room, thinking 6, maybe a 7th or something like that. Now that we got Craycraft back on the practice squad, I'm very happy about that situation there.
Yep, unclaimed.
Yep. What do you guys All right. So in our running back room, out of this scheme, do you think we're going to get a healthy dose of Salvan Ahmed? I think we're going to see Salvan Ahmed used more than we have seen him used. I'm just hoping that I'm hoping they do this running back by committee right, because I don't want to see any of these boys go down. That's all I want to see. I want to see this running back room throughout this season and stuff like that.
I feel better about the running back room now that Zaquandre White is back on the practice squad.
I love hearing that too.
You know, and something I heard on the 3 Yards Per Carry podcast earlier is that Myles Gaskin and Salvan Ahmed, the minute that Chase Edmonds and Raheem Mostert came in the building and Sony Michel came in the building, they didn't pout. They worked harder and harder and harder and continued to carve out niches for themselves. And that is a lesson for somebody like Preston Williams, who pouted his way to hopefully unemployment. Yeah. And he was cut. You know,
I mean, listen, Paul or Brian, excuse me. All summer we're seeing guys.
His beard is not this nice.
What, you're right, but I mean, I know he has like the brain power of both you guys. Let's be real, Paul. I mean, he's the smart one on the show. You're the looker, he's the brains. We know it. What I was saying is, I totally lost my train of thought. The beard threw me off. What was I saying, boys? Gosh, messed up my whole deal now.
Jared Dokes is not going to be re-signed, I think is the key.
No, I don't think so.
Key thing. No, that wasn't it. No, Salvan Ahmed and Myles Gaskin, they kept working, kept churning, and every time that you think Myles Gaskin is out, he finds a way back in. He's one of the last picks of the 2019 draft, even though he's one of 2 players in college football history with 4 straight years of 1,200-plus yards rushing, along with Ron Dane. And then here we are, 4 years into his NFL career, and he's punching his way onto an NFL roster. And what's really weird about Gaskin is that he is so inconsistent in that he's a really good receiver. I view him as kind of a James White type of player in this type of offense. But he also has these games like against the Jaguars last year. For you rewatch that Jaguars game, it was embarrassing. He had the worst game out of a running back I've ever seen. He had a fumble. He ran terribly.
He got stopped behind the line a lot.
It was terrible. I mean,
arm tackles were bringing him down. One arm.
I mean, and Salvan Ahmed could be brought down one arm all the time, but if he finds that crease, it's 20 yards every time. So it's a long way for me to say they have skills, and I'm surprised to see them both on the team, but I'm glad that they punched their way onto the team too.
Yeah, with Gaskin,
to piggyback on that, I think Myles got my bad, Cap. I think Myles Gaskins to this last game showed McDaniel something because he ran with a force. I don't think I've ever seen Myles Gaskins run viciously like that. I thought
for sure he was going to make the team.
He was not going down.
I've seen this story from Myles Gaskin already, last year and him coming in. He's a guy that's going to grind harder than anyone around him, and he's hard to keep off of a football team. And Sony Michel was really the kicker, but after what we saw from him, I was like, there's no way they're picking him over. I wonder why didn't they switch Sony to like fullback duties? They don't think he could do that. You know what I'm saying? I know he's a great blocker, but I don't know. I guess they just couldn't see anything in him. But to me, this outside zone fits his skill set so well because out in space beyond the line of scrimmage with a hole to bounce through, as long as he can get through that hole clean, now you're putting him on linebackers or safeties, and he's shifty, he's quick, he's fast, and if he can catch an angle on you, he's going to expose you. He's going to do good things. I'm proud of him and the hard work he does. And I respect a grinder and a worker like that. That's a guy that's always going to end up on a roster somewhere and play.
Yeah, when I'm sorry to shamelessly plug the show again. When Charlie and I spoke to Myles, I think after his rookie season or second season, I'll lose track at this point. he basically said that his rookie season, not playing and kind of like watching from the stands, allowed him to learn so much. And he said that really benefited him because he was able to see what the other guys were doing and kind of picked up from that. But he also said what he does every single off season, and he's not the only person to do this, but he mentioned it on the podcast, was that he works on stuff that he's weak at, so that no one can turn around and say to him, you know what, you can't do this. So if he needs to improve on catching at the backfield, that's what he's going to do and stuff like that. And I think it's one of those things where, Brian Flores, while he was in the building, said that Myles Gaskin was the epitome of a Miami Dolphin. And, in our opinion, I'm sure other fans might agree, disagree, no one from Sony Michel to Chase Edmonds to whoever, no one can come into Hard Rock Stadium and basically kick Myles Gaskin out if he is exactly what the Miami Dolphins organization, from Brian Flores to whoever it is, that's what they see. Someone who, it's a cliche, first one in, hard working, always asking questions and stuff like that.
Always growing, always working on his craft. Dude like that. Yeah, you could tell. And shout out to you and Charlie on that interview, because honestly, and I always liked him, but you could tell just in speaking with him that it's like churning in his head. The worker type. Like you could see that he's taking mental reps in an interview, thinking about how he's going to execute on a football field. He's got dreams. He's got belief. And those types of guys, not to whatever, but I look at like Patrick Laird. I always thought the same kind of thing about him. Completely way less dynamic than Myles Gaskin, which is why he's, not on the team anymore. But those types of players I hold in the highest esteem, because those are guys that grind out things. They make long careers. They find uses. They stick with their team forever. It's an 8-9 year career, and they've got varying success and stuff like that. Those types of guys that's a heart and soul of what football really is to me, is that, you get what you earn, not what you deserve. And there's something in that aspect that I just cherish about the game, that there's still that heart, and then we got to look at Noah, where, he's taking up somebody's spot, but hopefully the young man gets it figured out. I don't want to throw no one under the bus, because man, could you guys imagine if this kid starts figuring out how to do his job on the boundary, where this will be. The bread and butter of this football team is the defense, but that's changed now with the way this offense is. This balance we can hope to expect as Dolphin fans. It's got to be the most, I don't want to say the most exciting, because I'm this excited for every season, but it's definitely the most, I don't know. I'm going to put some money on the Dolphins this year. That's what I know. I'm putting my wallet in some places. I always tread lightly on my football team. I'm going to put my wallet on some. I know everybody's got to start heading out a little bit. Why don't you go, Kadeem? Kadeem's like, what time is it over there, Kadeem? I just want everyone to be aware.
Yeah, let's let Kadeem go first, man.
Super late where Kadeem is holding it down from the UK. Please, Kadeem.
It's 3:30 a.m. and I have work in like 4 hours, but it is what it is. We're talking Miami Dolphins.
And a boy, Kadeem.
Mm-hmm.
Good man, Kadeem.
Giving you a run for your money, Paul, ain't he?
Dude, trust me, I've done stuff like this from the UK before, so no worries.
Nice.
If I was talking Dolphins at 3:30 a.m., my wife would come down and punch me. So,
well, you just had the baby though, Brian, right? So you
he's 2 now. He's sleeping, and he sleeps majestically throughout the night. But
oh, God willing, so now you get some sleep and stuff. That's
real
great.
Quick, because I want Kadeem's input on this too. What if I told you that I just found a team that has a steep enough drop off at wide receiver and could use another tight end to pair with, and has the cap space to take on Gesicki's contract, and actually has a corner that just missed winning a starting role that could be available?
Without giving too much detail, what's their quarterback situation like?
Bad. So they need tight ends.
Do they have a young guy on the roster?
Are you referring to the Seahawks?
Yeah, it sounds like the Seahawks to me.
Yep, and they've got the extra draft capital to make the move and the room to do it. I mean, would you pull the trigger?
They will give you a second.
Artie Burns in a second?
I see it. I've seen it as a perfect marriage with the Seahawks, because think about it like this.
And it helps any quarterback they have. Drew Lock will benefit from that.
But when they get a young guy to come in next year, he'll have weapons to grow with.
If they can re-sign Gesicki or Franchise.
He wouldn't re-sign them.
No, he wouldn't. Yeah, I agree with that.
He's northeast
he would not,
all the way.
He would not resign for $17 million.
He'll be a Jet Giant Pillar Eagle. Jet Giant.
With
Noah Fant there, no way in hell.
Let's go Giants. We should be calling them right now. Why are we
northeast?
Not? Go ahead, Kadeem. Final thoughts on your thing. Trade.
I think it's interesting, especially Mike Gesicki, that heading into the season, the consensus was that he's going to go off with, in this system, Mike McDaniel, all this kind of stuff. And throughout preseason, he didn't wow anyone. And all of a sudden, it's like, would we even get a fit for him? And it's like, Mike Gesicki hasn't become bad overnight. Mike Gesicki is exactly what we all know Mike Gesicki is. He's basically a really good weapon. When we drafted him, don't ask him to block. What are you doing? In 2022, don't ask him to block.
That's why we drafted 2 that
You know what, though, Kadeem? And not to take too much of your time, Kadeem, because I know you got to wrap it up. But to Brian's point, the great tight ends weren't – they were basically athletes in other sports, right? I think Shannon Sharp also talked about this, being a tight end. He was brought in to catch balls, not to block. That's what they had the other guy for. So same situation with Gesicki. Now, I will say, though, if we want to – so Travis Kelce is a great tight end because he blocks adequately. He's not a great blocker, but he does it adequately enough that it gives him that balance and that edge where if he lines up out there, teams don't know if he's only here for a blocking play or for a passing play. So I think with Mike Gesicki, and we saw this last game, when he played versus the Raiders, his blocking was not great.
It'll never be great. And last thing on Gesicki, there wouldn't be so much of an overlap if it weren't for Cedric Wilson. And I loved having Cedric Wilson here.
Yes.
Paul and I have talked about this in our show, and he keeps reminding me about this, is that Gesicki is not a tight end. He is a big slot receiver.
A slower slot receiver,
and that is what Cedric Wilson was signed for. Cedric Wilson is a quality product. That's what the overlap is. And it's hard to get all 4 of those guys on the field at the same time with Raheem Mostert, Chase Edmonds, Durham Smythe. It's a good problem to have.
It's so odd, though, Brian. It's so
areas
odd.
of the field.
It's so odd, though, because like when we talk about measurables and these guys that are super successes as tight ends in the NFL, that the names you went over earlier, eluding me right now. My point is that it's just never worked out for where he's been that explosive thing. I wonder if Embry and company are thinking that they could tap into something, but those aren't the types. Those aren't the types, though.
Gesicki does not have the opportunity to catch 70-plus passes again like he has the last 2 years. That opportunity does not exist in this offense. It just doesn't. So the question that you have to ask yourself is, are you okay with Mike Gesicki being a Tony Scheffler, if you remember him from 15 years ago, type of player where you're catching 35 passes for 550 yards, but those are meaningful catches? Because that's what Gesicki's going to be.
Exactly. I mean, look, if he's catching and converting third downs, extending drives, then go off the field, get some more yards by the other guys, and then if he's lining up in the field in the red zone at the 10 and the 5 and getting 7 to 9 or even more touchdowns, think about that. Would you get a 508 line from him and be happy? Yeah, because chances are 3 of those touchdowns are going to be in the fourth quarter because he was one of the most productive fourth quarter players last year from the tight end position. So there's a clutch element and
he did drop a couple key passes.
Absolutely.
I'll give him that, yes, but
everybody has a bad run.
He had a couple bad string of them, though. He got me upset a couple games. He got me upset.
I'll close the Gesicki to this. It's not going to close it, but I'll say this: if he could just break some tackles like the other tight ends in the contemporary, it would be absolute game changing. I think where it makes us sick is that I'm looking at a 190-pound nickel corner take him down. And I just can't help but feel that he could take his giant hand and his long arm and move that guy away. Because he does. He reached out, but then the guy takes him to the ground. There's just a physicality that he's missing in the tight end position that the greats in that position, in that scenario, expose that defense. And
to be fair, though, he sprints by some of those guys that other people.
It's true, but that's what he has to do because if he's not gonna out physical them, and he's so much bigger and stronger.
But it's because
but
I agree. Gesicki's not meant to go against cornerbacks or the second best cornerback of the defense. He's meant to go against linebackers. And Paul's right.
Like every linebacker
that's
is
a deadly miss.
To the ground.
The reason why last year you had Gesicki being jammed up by the cornerback, it was the second best defender on
wide
the
receiver.
team.
Most
he only
of the
had
plays
Waddle.
that we ran him out there.
So that's it, bro. More athlete, more speed, more athletic is gonna take Gesicki out of rhythm in his routes. But bro, now the situation, he has a chance to light it up and make the Dolphins regret what we did.
All right, Kadeem.
I'll say one more thing about Gesicki, and this is some advice for you here, Captain, is that Gesicki will never block and he will never break tackles. It will never happen.
And I don't need him in
the history.
Put him as a wide receiver and stop lying to me about him being a tight end.
He is a great. He's not a tight end. He is a receiver. He's a big slot.
He's our sixth receiver right now in the depth chart.
And he's so unusual in the NFL because nobody's really like him. And I don't mean that like he's so special or so rare. Is that in terms of attributes, he's 6'6", 245, and an amazing athlete, and makes these one-handed catches.
Yeah,
like
his catch radius is massive. He can't break a tackle. He can't block people. Even wide receivers do that, though. What are you talking about? Why can't he?
To be fair, these other tight ends we're talking about who are 6'5", 260 aren't jumping another 6 feet in the air to reach out with one gigantic arm and pull it down. And by the way, for all the listeners out there, every time we say one more thing on Gesicki, you need to take a shot.
Much like Gesicki did well as an old player.
Add the name Brian Flores. If I hear Brian Flores again, we all got to take an extra shot.
Oh, well, we're never going to get drunk that
way.
That
Brian Flores,
he's got Jesse Davis now, so he's good.
Oh, man,
that's
they're going
crazy,
to kill it
bro.
now. That blocking scheme's going to be off the hook. Kadeem, what were you going to Go Time Dolphins, all that good stuff?
Plug in your stuff, Kadeem. Plug it in.
Yeah, I'm one half of Go Time Dolphins. If you're gonna come and check us out, I highly recommend you check out our Javon Holland interview from January.
Fire.
Holland talks, Tua. He talks, playing with Brandon Jones. And my favorite bit, he talks anime. As an anime guy, chopping it up with Javon Holland about anime was absolutely brilliant. So head over to Go Time Dolphins.
I showed that. I told you I showed that to my daughter. She watched it a couple times with me and stuff. I'm not an anime guy. It was a great episode.
So guys, thanks for having me. I do need to sleep, but it was a blast to chat Dolphins. Great to meet some of you guys. Gio, great to catch up once again. So I'm sure at some point over the next few weeks we'll be
again. Get Charlie to come over on one of these bad boys with you. Hopefully we can schedule in with Charlie. I know Charlie's got an odd work schedule, man, but let him know I said hey.
Kadeem, have some banoffee pie because they don't have it here.
Later, Kadeem. Later, brother.
Peace out, bro.
See you, brother. Yeah, man. I know Paul and everybody's starting to roll out of this thing. So go ahead, Brian.
Your stuff, guys.
Yeah, you can follow us on the FinSide, all spelled out, on
FIN,
Twitter, all of our social media outlets, as well as finfanatic.com and the Fansided Network. Mm-hmm. And we do year-round draft and Miami Dolphins coverage. We do 3 shows a week. We're going to preview the Patriots game at least once and then have a recap late that night as well. So be sure to join us on that. And we really get into draft season as well. And we're also available on Twitter. Go ahead and follow us.
Brian, and I've already said this to you guys before when I had you on before. I lean on you guys for my draft edumacation. I've done it for years. For as long as you guys have been doing it, I've been listening because I'm telling. And just like you guys heard, Paul pulling these freaking. I don't know where the hell you find this information from, but I'm telling you, it will make you at least feel smarter. You might not.
Bro, you got to look at the merch for South Dakota School of Mines and Technology. You can literally buy a branded geology kit.
Wow. You know what? I really was looking for one of those too.
I'm telling you, man.
Thank you, Color, for plugging.
Do they have any? Do they have any swimsuits like these?
They do have the.
They got some of
tutu.
those.
They don't have the swimsuit, but you can get the tutu to go along with the swimsuit.
Sounds good. Oh man. Paul, final thoughts.
Guys, appreciate you guys having us on. We always have a good time with you guys. I know I tend to poke my head in here once in a while and just throw some words around, or somehow Color and I still haven't connected yet when he's been on. We've connected a little bit over some words when I had a minute to pop in, but no, I appreciate you guys, man. Like what you guys are doing here. I know it's a little different than what we do. Sarney, you and I can't stop running into each other friggin' everywhere, man. Like,
love it, man. Anytime, Paul, bring it on.
Me too, dude. Me too. If you're coming to MetLife this year, I won't be able to make it, but make sure you guys go check out the Dolphins NYC crew and what they're doing for the MetLife takeover. And guys, make sure you go out, and if you are listening to this still, once that foundation for Jason Jenkins gets set up, both of those foundations, you will not meet a better human being on this planet. The world is a sadder place today for not having that man on it. Anybody that's met him has a great Jason Jenkins story or more. And the guy was such an amazing human being. Much love to Stephen Ross for what he did on his behalf today or announced. And I really can't wait till those.
I will hand Stephen Ross that. The guy's a class act with the off stuff like that. Super class act on how he handles that type of business. Questionable stuff in football over the years, but that stuff he's knocked out of the park.
The team that we've built from there right now that we're all excited about today, that came from
handed out those checks.
Lessons learned. It brought us Tyreek Hill. Right. It brought us Jalen Waddle. It brought us Mike Gesicki, who we can argue about whether he's more valuable getting us a top 2-round pick or less. Like, it brought us a lot of guys. It brought us the guy that brought us the Tunsil trade. It brought all of these things. So I'm done for a while dogging him on the football front.
Yeah. And you know what? It feels like that type of, synergy, if you will, is moving in this direction. And I mean, look no further to YouTube, Twitter, all these the creators, the people, the fans, the interaction. It's growing to somewhere. I think us as fans can feel it. There is not only good times coming, but great things in the future of this franchise. I know we've had a little bit of a setback, but it feels like that they're in an all or nothing and really following through for the fans in that way. Something we've been waiting for a long time. So, but yeah, guys, make sure to check out Paul. Brian, thanks, man. Really appreciate you coming by, Paul. Take it easy, my brother.
Make sure you guys like and subscribe here too.
Yes,
that's
please,
right.
Guys,
hit that like button, man.
On the FinSide, take it easy, Paul. Guys, it was great. Jason.
Thank you, Capitan, for having me on. Really was an awesome time. Can't wait to do this more. Geo, fun stuff, and everyone on the panel.
Man,
really was a blast. You said it. This is a great time for us Dolphin fans, content creators, writers, YouTubers, tweets, whatever you want to do. Just do it. Do it with the, do it if not for anything, for what, Paul said, for a guy like a Jason Jenkins who brought this community together. I would not have seen 99.9% of the things I have seen in the last 3 years in this Dolphin world and community, or have gotten opportunities or walked through doors, if not for that man. So do things in his honor, do it kind, do it community, do it philanthropy, all things like that. So this should be a terrific year, and we should all come together as a fan base. So thanks for having me on. Happy to do this anytime.
Take it easy, Jason. Thanks. Anytime.
Anything
you want to plug before you head out?
Find me at Dolphins Wire, and find me on my my fun tweets in the morning.
Yep. On Twitter, make sure to follow Jason. Take it easy, Jason.
Love reading that, man. Thank you, bro.
Gio, man, get some final thoughts. It worked out pretty well. I think we'll be seeing this again. Everyone, the fans received it well. Hopefully rotate in some other guys in on this whole action. Spots, things, people, platforms.
Yeah,
maybe even it'll cross over to where it'll be on a Twitch channel, and all these YouTube and other people fall into that stuff. I really believe that, it's not something to be kept for any one person in this way, that it's something that can move around. And it's, I don't want to say pay it forward, because that's not really the word I'm looking for. I'm kind of thinking like, really show the unity in the fan base the way I believe that it can be done and should be done. So some final thoughts, Gio.
100%, bro. I couldn't agree with you more, man. I liked how it turned out. It brought a lot of different channels together in the Dolphins community for sure. I loved it. I'm glad to do this again. I was just about to tell you, Richmond Webb reached out to me and actually said that he can commit, to a few episodes here, some that at the start of the season here. So we've been talking. So yeah, it's fun. It's exciting, man. I appreciate everybody for coming out, bro. For Capitan for finally getting this done, bro. And you did it great. That thumbnail came out great, bro. Shout out to
shout out to HB in the back, killed it.
Man.
Yeah, killed it.
Bro, I just want to say it's exciting, man. Listen, what has me most excited about this, Cap, is that remember our earlier conversations here months ago. How excited was I for the potential of getting Mike McDaniel to this team?
You talked about it, in the way of
schematically too.
The scheme, all that good stuff. But you kind of had a little bit of the things like that first time genius stuff. I don't get me wrong, I understand it, and that's what I see, and I understand.
We haven't seen it yet. Maybe he shows us.
I didn't like the whole how I was being sold it. I'm like, I don't know.
But if you notice,
he's made good. He's made
even
good.
Then the media didn't really try to sell it too hard. They only did that for like 1 or 2 days, and then that's it. So my thing is this, and I've told you this,
I don't know, bro. I seen him on Good Morning Football with Peter Schrager. Shout out to Peter Schrager. And he was like a little schoolgirl.
But those guys are different, bro. Listen, they're respectful. They're going to do that. They do that to everybody. But listen,
I don't know. Not like this,
Mike
bro.
McDaniel. This is the thing about Mike McDaniel that people in life just resonate with. He's the type of guy, and this was always my biggest thing with him, because this is where greatness comes out, right? Remember, he was not given a shot. The Dolphins were the only team publicly to interview or give him a shot at interviewing for a head coaching position. He was blackballed from being able to
be
interview
our
for any
offensive
other
coordinator. We wanted to hire him as our offensive
That was
coordinator.
before, but this past season when he was a head coaching candidate, he didn't get any other offers. No one else called him for an interview. He didn't get accepted to do any other interviews. The Dolphins were the only team to interview him, and it was because he came out and talked about his alcohol abuse, which he was man enough to come out, admit his faults and his progress and getting better and getting help. But bro, there's something about those storylines where not only is he been proven to come up with certain play designs perfected and show, listen, this kid was young when Shanahan brought him to the Redskins, to the Broncos, Redskins, and was like, hey, listen, I trust you enough to do this. So there was something always about Mike McDaniel where he may not look the part, but I have a feeling, bro, that he, and it showed us. I mean, look at last preseason game. When everyone executed their blocking assignments correctly and did motion, when we actually did a couple run designs, Mostert looked like he was gliding out there. He had to do bare minimum to pick up those 29 yards running on the outside.
He had a nice lot of outside.
It was smooth,
room.
Bro.
No one touched him till like 8 yards downfield or anything like that.
I'm telling you,
that outside zone scheme. And what's crazy is that, it's a lot of. I mean, Pop Warner plays this scheme. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I know people. I don't want to devalue it. It's really simple. You create a lot of the work going on the big men, and you want them to get out in space and cause havoc out there. Sitting and waiting and letting the defense tee off is just hard work. It's not fun. I mean, there's nothing an offensive lineman loves more than being downfield and getting able to get his hands on a DB somewhere and upend him. You know what I'm saying? You just want to throw that boy off the day. So it really creates that type of team aspect. And that was the last time we had success around here. We ran this exact scheme back when we had the Unicorns. And we've been trying to do this football team with this defense and this offense forever. This is the team we've been trying to put together. This type of style on offense, this type of style on defense. We've never lined the two up. with a future. We've kind of mismatched and patched it together a little bit. For a season, a couple guys go down, you got to abandon it and go to a little bit more vanilla or whatever. We've never had where we have depth, where the guys behind, the whole thing across the board, everyone's a scheme fit for what they're trying to do defensively and offensively. It's going to be a great thing. Plug the show and let everybody know everything good, Gio.
Yeah, man, you can follow me at Miami Sports Fanatic Show. Catch me over there, do a couple shows a week, or put up some videos, whatever, man. But again, very excited about doing this show with El Capitan. And I can't appreciate everybody else's time, man. So smash that like button here as well and subscribe. And let's all grow together, because once the Dolphins start winning, we all start winning.
That's exactly right.
That's just how it is, man. So FinSup, shout out to you, El Cap, man, and have a great night, everybody.
Take it easy, Gio, man. Take it easy. Yeah, guys, I think it was a pretty good success. Again, it's an ideology of where we're going to, float it around, and this will be something. And hour and a half, 2 hours, couple of breakdown, get to hear from everybody a little bit, a couple of questions, some fun stuff. Make sure you guys are going and subscribing if you're not, to anybody who came around today. Make sure to check out Jason on Dolphins Wire, all that good stuff. But also, guys, make sure you're subscribing here. If you're watching this and you didn't subscribe, all right, that's your prerogative, I guess. I mean, what would I do? Make sure to check out all the great content we have here on the network, starting out Tuesdays with Talk 7 TMI Tuesdays, live around 9. Thursday night, late night color commentary coming at you. Do a coffee with a cup of color every now and again. We also got Saturday late night exhale with Ali, crushing it on the weekends. And then every other day, nighttime, whatever going on, videos, you can count on El Capitan to take care of you guys, all that good stuff. And support the channel, support the partners, Fanatics, link in the description, Backroom Collection, use offer code #TFTG to get 10% off. And then, guys, got a great link to all the cool merch that we got. Hoodies, sandals, tank tops, got the, fire hats, white and black ones, and there's all different there's trucker style ones, different ones like that. Huge, nice, big, freaking awesome flags where you guys are going to the tailgate. Make sure to rock them. Some new things, yoga pants, stuff like that on there as well. Get your shorty the TFTG swimsuit. She'll feel good about it. She'll look good in it, and you'll be happy. And it's a present for yourself. Let's be real. And also, while you're at your work, man, get yourself a tumbler. All the shows around on the thing, man, it's going to be fire. And you know what, guys? I really appreciate everyone coming by. Support the channel, support the community. Check out all the great content creators. And we're going to leave you guys, because now it's time to move on to Patriots week. The team is being set. The team is getting a well-needed rest. Practice squad's going to be fleshed out here. And we're going to host the Patriots, and we're going to put it on their asses. And we'll see you guys probably tomorrow. So take it easy, fins up, hit the like.